Yeah, so bringing awareness is one of the most important pieces because when you're actually aware of why you think, act, react the way you do, you can start to consciously create change. As a coach, I can shine the path that I've walked. What I do with my clients, I've done on myself again and again and again and again and again and again and again, like culturally, but how we've been told for so many years, you need to be a man or you need to be a woman, like this one or the other. That's not really how it works. It's that harmonizing of those two extremes. That's where the magic is. Quantum entanglement, how you can entangle with something. And then no matter how far apart those atoms are, they are reacting and acting in the same way. Like this to me just proves the woo in the science space.
This is where the journey of expanding empires in real estate, small business, and life unfolds. Join me for insightful conversations with industry leaders uncovering the strategies from overcoming setbacks to celebrating triumphs in business and life. This podcast is your guide through the roller coaster of entrepreneurial life. Whether you're navigating the challenges of small business or conquering the world of real estate, here is your empire. Welcome to Empire Expanders. All right, everybody out there in the Empire Expanders world, today I have Melissa with us. She's a little bit different than normal entrepreneurs. She does not talk about real estate investing. Melissa and I met a little while ago, and she helped me out a ton. Melissa is an intuit and a personal transformation coach. She has gone from some interesting things to come to this part of the world. We had a wonderful session, which we'll probably talk about today, where she helped me realize a lot of things about myself. She's helped a lot of entrepreneurs. She has a master's degree in clinical psychology, so she knows her stuff. Let's bring her on stage here so she can tell us about all the things that I know nothing about.
Hello.
Hey, Melissa, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
It's good to see you again.
It's always good to see you.
It's been a few months, huh?
It has.
So I told everybody you're an Intuit guide. I pronounced that right?
Intuitive.
Intuitive.
Yeah.
I knew I messed it up.
It's okay.
So everyone out there, intuitive guide.
I'm an intuitive, yeah.
So
an energy intuitive. I don't really use the term psychic, but I'm sure some people would put me in that realm. But yeah, I read energy and I really lean into my intuition, my feminine, and I've combined a lot of those gifts with my coaching and training in psychology.
So if I go into an intuitive, geez, man, if I go into an intuitive, what do I go into an intuitive for? For everyone out there to know.
Yeah, I read energy. I do a lot of work with like in the spirit and soul realm. And, for example, in our session before we met, I asked you for just a few guiding like things in your life that you wanted some insight on. And then to prepare for our session, I went into meditation and I read your energy, and I really also kind of read your soul's history. It's kind of a conversation with that soul world and then the energy, what you're carrying on you. This got woo really quick. So yeah.
I don't mind woo. 2 years ago, if you asked me about woo and said that, I'd be like, nope, like that, no way. But now I'm all into it. As you know, as I mentioned earlier to everyone out there, I did a session with Melissa, and she helped me out a lot to get through things. As you know, with entrepreneurs, business owners, and anyone in life, we go through a lot of things and we keep them bottled up. And we don't know why we're going through them, and we're trying to figure out why we have these roadblocks of what's going on and stuff like that. And finding somebody like Melissa can help you understand some things that you don't understand, whether it's past lives, if you believe in that sort of thing, or masculine, feminine, or some of the other things we'll talk about today.
Yeah, so those are my areas of expertise, I would say. Those seem to be what I've been drawn to work with in this realm. And it's really, for me, I focus a lot on the subconscious. So the subconscious is the driver of about 85 to 90% of your behaviors, thoughts, actions. And I've actually heard that number even kind of go up to 95% sometimes. So my focus in my work is working on shifting those subconscious beliefs and programs. So a lot of intuitives and psychics in this space, they might take another route. My focus is kind of really descending into you and then bringing those limiting beliefs to awareness so you can get out of your own way.
Yeah, it's really cool. You're going to help me more in the future. We've already talked about that to try to get out of my own way. So you have the clinical psychology degree,
Mhm.
you have the intuitive skills. How do you marry the two? Because it seems like an awesome marriage of skills.
Yeah. So I stepped away from my career in the psychology world about 3 years ago. And I knew that I wanted to really work with these gifts more. So I really started stepping into my intuition when I became a mother. It was actually one of my goals going into motherhood to be more in touch with my intuition and my feminine. And I took a lot of, like, I played with tarot for a while. I read tarot for my friends and family. I did a lot of journaling meditations where I was connecting with my higher self for guidance. And then I actually had, when I first started offering sessions, my goal was to work with women. So women that were mothers, women that wanted to become mothers, women struggling with fertility, women that were mothers and wanted to be entrepreneurs. And I started doing that. And then very quickly, the husbands and partners of my clients started reaching out to me, asking if I did sessions for men. I decided I did. And then I really started diving into, that's when I started working with the men and the masculine more, that started to bring a lot of awareness to kind of masculine, feminine energy, polarity energy, and those dynamics and how they play within every one of us.
So one of the things we talked about is I really lean into my masculine energy because everyone out there, I'm super manly, just so everyone knows. Because you can't see me if you're not watching YouTube. I'm kidding about that part, but the first part I'm not kidding about. I lead a lot into my masculine energy and not into my feminine energy as much. Is that something that you found? Is that something you kind of help out with a lot, or is that just something you're kind of helping me out with more, trying to find that feminine energy?
Yeah, so even within the masculine, there is a spectrum. And when a man such as yourself kind of says, like, I lean really a lot into my masculine, what I tend to see is it's actually more of a wounded masculine and that wounded masculine shield. And that is a lot to do with the culture in which we live in. And, it's kind of just been generation and generation of the wounded masculine. That's actually what the patriarchy is. It's this kind of like wounded masculine overculture that suppresses the feminine. And a lot of men kind of operate in that. And the wounded masculine it's not just this like innate confidence and knowing of your worth. It's kind of like actually that lack of like, I'm not worthy. And because he doesn't feel worthy, he then tries to constantly prove that. So it's that constant need to do and to fix. And it can also show up as like a little competition, of course, is healthy and good, but like over competition, like needing to be the best, needing to beat everyone down, needing to have everyone beneath you so that you can shine. It's aggression. It's like those kind of things. Whereas the healthy, healed, and even divine masculine is, again, that innate confidence, that innate knowing of your worth. It's just this like strong, sturdy presence. And so for you, I feel like it's that masculine shield has more to do with that woundedness in you. And then as you start to become aware of those reasons why you have that, you'll naturally start to step more into your healed masculine, which will then allow that feminine to come online.
And the first step, right, is trying to find that reason why, because we don't know. We don't know. Like, it's like why. There's a problem. You just don't know. Like me, like, okay, why? Why am I wounded masculine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of it is I work a lot with childhood programming. So a lot of these ways in which we don't feel worthy of what we want, we kind of take on these very limiting narratives in childhood. And I see this a lot in people's money stories. So they kind of have this way in which they think about money and interact with money subconsciously that was really rooted in childhood. Children really see the world through this black and white lens. So there's a lot of ways in which we have formed our beliefs about the world from a very underdeveloped brain, which is just like black and white. And these core wounds kind of usually exist in that time, but it's really starting to look at your patterns and digging deeper into like asking those questions why. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you just talked about before this. If you want to bring it up right now, you can. A money story with me that recently happened that would correlate back, and you can tell the story if you want right now.
Yeah. So are you talking about the thing that I just kind of pulled through before the podcast?
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to.
So one of the things is I know that you are working through you're wanting to expand with money, empire expanders. Let's talk about that. And that's
Yep.
actually a very common theme. I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of executives, CEOs, and we all have a narrative around money that is really rooted in, I think I would say like 95% of the time it's rooted in childhood. And it also is kind of ancestral. So the way it's been passed down to us. So my money stories, for example, that I've spent a lot of time bringing awareness to and then shifting within myself, where my family comes from like blue collar workers. And then also my father's family is like they're farmers. So a lot of scarcity beliefs around money, like money is hard to come by. So you need to, when you get it, you need to like bury it away. And you have to work very, very hard to receive money. These are a lot of very common themes in the money world. And for you, one of the things I was picking up on with money for you was this is actually one of the polarities of the masculine. And this is David Data, his work, if any of your listeners are familiar with him. If not, highly recommend. He talks about how the masculine kind of exists in this. The masculine wants to feel free. And when he's not feeling free, he feels trapped. And there's something going on with you right now where you're feeling very trapped and constrained by money. And really kind of taking, when I brought that to you, you said, yeah, that feels, that resonates with me. So then if we were in session, I would say, okay, well, let's start to think back to childhood. How was money spoken to in your, like, how was money spoken about in your home? How did you see spending? How did you see the stress of your parents trying to get money? So for me, for example, I kind of took on this narrative of, because I saw my father work so hard for money and come home so stressed trying to receive money, there was something in me, in my little girl brain, that was like, oh, well, if this is doing this to him, money must be bad. So if then I'm taking this belief of money must be bad to adulthood, and that is driving my subconscious behavior. If money must be bad, and I also have that good girl programming of I must be good, I must just push money away in order to be good. And I actually did this in my former career. I worked in research, and I had this narrative of, because I'm trying to do good in the world, I'm not going to make a lot of money. And that was just this way in which I was existing. Like, this is my job. I'm not going to make a lot of money, but that's okay because I want to do good. And it wasn't until I had my first date with my husband, actually, who's a serial entrepreneur, and I kind of told him some frame of that, and he like looked at me and he was like, "Well, you could do a lot more good in the world if you had more money." And it was just like, "What? You're right."
That is an old school thought process. Is you can be a good person or have money. That's it.
Yes, yes. And if you actually subscribe to that belief unconsciously, anytime money comes your way, you're going to be like, nope, like I have to be good, so I cannot have this because money equals bad. Does that
And
make
the
sense?
key word you just said in the middle of that was unconsciously,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not conscious, unconsciously.
Yeah. So I work a lot with aligning my clients' conscious desires and goals with actually their unconscious behavior, because so many of us consciously want these things and we put so much energy into going after them, not even realizing that the subconscious that runs the show might be pushing away what you're trying to pull through.
Mm-hmm. And I bet everyone listening out there, if you're an entrepreneur like me, Melissa here, we've gone through a lot of coaching programs, we've gone to a lot of seminars and stuff like that. So we know a lot of things. We know kind of the mindset, the things you're supposed to do. But knowing it, like Melissa and I talked about this during our session, knowing it versus internalizing it, or
Mhm.
you put it a better way than I did, is very different.
Oh, yeah. So the way I kind of think about it is, so in my work, mind, body, spirit, like I very much see the mind, the mental as the masculine, and then embodying it, like actually pulling it down and living it, embodying it, having it be a part of your life, that's the feminine. So kind of bringing it down deeper. So integrating, embodying, words like that I use a lot.
I like that because yeah, I kind of stop shoulder level. Things stop here at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right? What you talked about. So I'm going to take a step back and then we'll go back into it because I don't want everybody to get completely lost. Can
Of
you give
course.
kind of high level thought process? We're talking a lot about masculine versus feminine. Um, can you give kind of high level what is masculine, what is feminine, what's it look like, stuff like that? I know you can go probably in a 4-hour dissertation about it, but we kind of need like a 5-minute thing.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. So the masculine energy and the feminine energy, these are the vital life force creation energies, and we all hold them within us. And we usually have an essence. So my essence is feminine, your essence is masculine. And even as someone who has been very, very, very feminine my whole life, I was a ballet dancer. My favorite thing to wear is dresses. Even as a very feminine person, I actually was operating in my wounded masculine for most of my 20s, which was, again, that shield. It was this way to, and I also think it's this way that's presented to women to succeed in our culture, that over competitive boss bitch kind of culture. Like you have to basically dim everyone else's light in order for your light to shine. So it is an energy that's within everyone. And the feminine is really, it's more about trust, intuition, surrender, being connected with your body, listening to how I very much believe your body is always signaling to you. And for me, this reconnection with my feminine kind of was reconnecting with my body. The feminine is creation, it's life force energy. So I actually believe the energy of money is feminine. And the masculine is logical, protective, stability, innately confident. The masculine brings the feminine, which is very emotive, back into alignment. I always feel that way with my husband. My husband is a beautiful example of just healed divine masculine. And I always come to him so emotive, and he can just like calm me down. And it's that way in which the masculine can bring the feminine back into alignment. And the masculine like holds. So one of my favorite analogies for this is, or metaphors for this, would be the masculine is the riverbank and the feminine is the river that flows through it. So when we're trying to create our business, pull money to us, it's that energy of the feminine, but we also need to have the masculine developed enough in us to hold what we're calling in. I feel like every time I start a sentence, I'm trying to make it very, like, I want people to understand what I'm talking about, but if I go too woo too quickly, pull me back in, let me know. I'm happy to explain anything
No,
further.
you're good. I had a picture in my head because I'm a visionary. I could see it. And I'm like, ooh. So I got lost for a second there because I was, down by the river, just enjoying down
Just
by the
watching
river.
that flow.
Just watching the flow down by the river. No, that's a good explanation. I think I just want people to kind of understand that it's not like we're not talking, man versus girl
No,
or
we're
how
not.
people identify or anything like that. It's within us. We have both,
We have both.
right?
We all have both. And I believe that when you can bring both of those into harmony within each other, that's when you can really start to up level, unlock, like really start to achieve what you really. And I'm not saying some people do very much have it, like they can achieve success without bringing these into balance, but I think it's more ease in your life when you can bring the two into balance.
Yeah. And sometimes one dominates the other one.
Yeah. So when I actually stepped into this business, I was like, because my last, academia and succeeding in my last career was very much all in my masculine. I was like, I'm going to do this whole thing in my feminine. And then I was in it for like a year and I was like, oh, I need some structure. This is too flowy. And that actually, like within me, I needed to, for me, like my masculine energy feels like this, like sturdy spine. Like I straighten my spine and it's like, I got this. So I have this feminine in me that is, I know I'm on path. I know I'm following my purpose, my heart. And then I'm like really working with that to hold what I'm calling through.
I do like your river example still because you're directing it, right?
Yep.
It's going and you're directing it
Mm-hmm.
because we still have to do that. Like your business that you're growing right now, you still have to direct it.
I do.
You can sit back and have people come to you. It will happen eventually. But if you kind of put more structure around lead source and stuff like that, it will become a business
Yeah. And
easier.
honestly, like I've always been very competitive and, shunning that from myself didn't serve me. Like there's a very healthy, beautiful form of competition in the masculine, and acknowledging that and actually bringing it out within myself and directing it, like you said, in a way. And the masculine has this just innate desire to overcome, to like have a challenge in front of them and overcome it, knowing that about myself and bringing that online and just like directing it in a way in which I'm aligning this with my values and what I deeply want for my life, as opposed to my wounding, what I've been told I should do or should be.
I think an interesting thought as you were saying that, because my masculine locks away my feminine, which we're working on. It sounds like you actually locked away your masculine at one point in time, which also locked away a part of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I just, in like, and this happens a lot every time you kind of course correct. Like I was in this wounded masculine, and then I discovered this whole world of intuition, feminine trust. And I was like, I'm going to be over here for a while. This is
Yeah.
great. But then knowing again, it's about balancing, and it's that harmony of the two within you.
We tend to do that in a lot of places in our life, anyways. And it's not just the feminine masculine. It's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. Oh, that's not working. I'm going to do this way over here instead of just, making a few little adjustments. It's completely different. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gaining weight. Okay, I'm going to eat from 4,000 calories a day to 1,000. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're just going to quit that diet in like 2 days.
Extremes are, they're part of the learning process.
Yeah. And, I know that. But again, it's one of those things where I know, but then I do. I'm like, I'm going to start working out to get in shape. I'm going to go from not working out that much to doing 400 push ups a day. That sort of thing. And you're like, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. I don't know why my shoulder hurts so bad. I don't
Yeah.
get it. And so something else you work on a lot is past lives.
Mhm.
How does past lives affect us today?
So, in my understanding and my experience with working with past lives, so past lives was actually what I used to be a very hardcore atheist. And, I was convinced that nothing happened when you died, like you were just a body, that's it. And then it was actually the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson at the University of Virginia, who he's done case studies on thousands and thousands of children that actually were born remembering their past lives. And because my very scientific brain needed kind of a scientific entry into this realm, when I was about 24, I think I started reading his case studies and I read his book. And that was like this first opening into this world. And when I started doing my reading style that I do now for sessions, it was just something that kept coming to me. So I kind of I have this gift for kind of seeing how past lives and people can be affecting them. And we don't know about a past life. It won't be brought to our awareness unless we're ready to be aware of it, and unless we need to know something to shift it. So if you have a past life that is impacting you in this lifetime, I call it a past life imprint. So it's this way in which your subconscious, your soul, remembers something about a past life. And it's usually a way in which it's blocking you, like it's a fear. So all of our core wounds in my work, I found they have this resonance of fear, shame, or guilt. It's like there's very low vibrational frequencies that can keep us stuck or keep us like cycling and not being able to move forward. So for me, I actually had a past life wound. I've had several past lives where I was in this woo, psychic, witchy realm, and I was persecuted for it. And this is actually very common for people in this space. So I had a deep, deep-seated fear of being seen in this work, because I was logical Melissa, who was a scientist, and people actually sought out my scientific opinion on a lot of things because I knew how to read the research and the literature. And now I'm just taking this whole 180 into this world. And I was terrified. I was actually terrified to do sessions on people that I didn't know. And it wasn't until I discovered this one past life in particular. And I was able to see that and see why I was so afraid, why I was carrying that fear. And then I did energetic work to release that from me. I was then able to kind of show up more in this way. And it's funny because you tend to heal things in a spiral. So you kind of layer by layer get down to the core of it. So I did this past life release, did a lot of work on that. And I was like, I'm ready to be seen. And I went on my first podcast, and the host actually asked me about this fear. And I was like, I'm good. It's healed. And then like he stopped the record button. The podcast was over and I crumbled. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be seen. So had to do a little more work. we pull it back layer by layer.
Like an onion, like Shrek says.
Yes.
Shrek is a wise man. He knows his stuff. That's cool. Yeah, we talked about mine a little bit, and you dug into my past. And I think we've talked about the podcast before. I have this desire to continue to drive and drive and drive, and I always get to a point. It's like I made it. That's not it. I made it. That's not it. And the worthiness stuff, am I
Yeah.
worthy? And
Yeah.
you came to me and you're like, and we didn't even talk about that too much. You're like, I forgot the word you used. I'm not going to use the word because I'm going to use it wrong. And you brought up my past life, and it was like, wow, that is insane. Because you
Yeah.
talked about,
Yeah.
actually, I'll let you talk about it. You can do it better than I can.
Well, so for a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of your listeners or some of your listeners might be like, past lives, like, is this woman crazy? So it's not for everyone. But what I always say when I bring up because I work with a lot of people that aren't deeply spiritual or into this as much as I am. I very much like, you don't have to meet that criteria to be a client of mine. And when talking about past lives, I always frame it as like, if I say this and it resonates, it's going to be like a knowing in your body. Like, I saw it in you. Like, there was like like a relaxing in you. Like, there was just kind of this surrender moment where you felt, I saw it in you. You felt seen by me. And this, like, a lot of it was making sense. So it was kind of a remembering, if you want to say. And this way in which your past life is relevant to this lifetime was, in that past life, you had this insatiable desire for success, to continue to gain prominence, to gain wealth. And there were moments in that lifetime where you like reached the pinnacle of what you thought it was and you still felt empty. And in your lifetime, so balancing that, the reason why this lifetime is kind of on your energy is because you're meant to balance it in this lifetime. So really facing these wounds around scarcity, because if you have this scarcity mindset and you achieve success, it's never enough. And I'm sure you and your listeners know someone like this, where they have what you think of as everything that they could ever want, and they still don't feel safe. They still don't feel like they're abundant. They still don't feel happy. So by balancing that from that lifetime, it's really releasing the prison of scarcity and aligning with actually what you value, because it felt like in that lifetime you took on the values of others and were like driving after that, but really getting in alignment with what you want for your life, what you value in your life, and healing that wound around scarcity.
I think it's an important lesson for anyone out there to listen to, too. Like everything you just said there. Everyone, I believe, out there knows someone like that she just talked about, which
Mm-hmm.
that was me and is. I'm
Mm-hmm.
working through it.
Yeah.
But there's always someone out there that's you try to get to a point, and everyone listening to this may have happened to you at points in your life too. You're like, all I gotta do is to get here. Once I get there, man, I'll be happy. And then you get there, and you're like, but what's over there? There's
Yeah.
something over there.
Mm-hmm.
And you just keep walking, or you look up and you're like, but there's another mountaintop up there.
Yeah. And
And
it
then you
is
just keep
this,
going.
it's this balance of, because of course, like, I shine the path for myself, my husband, my clients to go after what we actually desire in this lifetime. Like, if you want to be a multimillionaire, go for it. I'm here to support that. And make sure that those millions and millions of dollars you're calling in actually align with what you want, what you value. Because so often people strive for that because they think it's going to create safety for them, which they've never had in childhood. So they think that that's kind of the solution, or they think it's going to make them worthy or lovable. And they get all this stuff and it's actually not the thing. So I'm here for you to have huge dreams and go after those huge dreams. Just make sure you're doing that aligned for yourself. And for me, it's this balance of every up level, every step I take, I'm incredibly grateful for where I am. And I try to sit in that before I'm like, all right, let's keep going. Because again, that drive to overcome, it's still very fiery in me.
Yeah. If you keep going for the outside influence, that's back to the wounded masculine, right? If,
Mm-hmm.
if you're up leveling yourself to go back to or getting into a millionaire status or 2 million, 3 million to get the outside validation, then you've fallen back into the wounded masculine, which you're trying to work your way out of.
And it's not going to feel fulfilling. It's not going to be that thing that, and people actually can achieve. People can pull in a lot of money with a scarcity mindset, because I actually see this as like, if you kind of took on this narrative of like, I need to be a survivor, I need to like fight to survive, I need to get what I want, fight for what I want. Like, if you have that in your programming, I very easily see people pull a lot to them. It's like scrappy energy.
Yeah.
But then it's, they're getting it and it's not enough. So like, they have it and they're still not happy. They're still feeling empty.
Yeah. The whole Scrooge McDuck thing where he just has this whole vault, right? They swim and he's still not happy. He still wants more.
Mhm.
all the time. I watched too many cartoons as a kid, obviously.
So for entrepreneurs especially, becoming very aware of your money stories is, I think, very, very important to help you up level in your business. And again, making sure you're aligned in your business, like being aware of the why behind why you're trying to reach that next number or reach that next level. And I think you're a lot more powerful and a lot more impactful when your why is actually in alignment with your heart, what you desire, as opposed to being driven by this wounded subconscious programming.
I think the one major thing, there's a lot of things we're going to get out of this podcast, but that's going to be the one core thing, like your money story. Know, as an entrepreneur, especially since this is towards struggling and new entrepreneurs, right? What is your money story?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're struggling. Our business might not be struggling, but we're struggling.
Yeah.
And that could be a major reason for it.
Yeah. And I really, it took me, I was just very, I wanted to understand why I thought the way I did around money. So I work a lot with journaling. So I don't just kind of like, I can't do the whole like you just journal and write all your feelings like that. I have to like be more structured in my journaling, but I would sit down and I would reflect on the conversations I heard about money growing up. I also did a lot of this work in meditation. So when you're in meditation in a theta wave state, you can kind of access the subconscious a little more easily, make shifts to it more easily. So going into meditation to really shine light on what age was I when I took on this narrative and how is it actually not serving me? Like, how is it not true? And once I was able to become aware of my money stories, I could start to shift them. And I am a living testament to how those shifts can quickly up level you and allow these dreams that you're going after to become more possible.
Nice. I
Mm-hmm.
want to step. I want to step back and kind of talk to everyone out there for a minute. She talked about past lives. Some of you out there don't believe in past lives. If you don't, and you're talking to somebody like a Melissa, she may say some things anyways that affects you and helps you. If it helps you, it's fine whether you believe in it or not. In my mind, right?
Yeah.
Just like anyone else, it's just saying something to help you. It just take it in, let it help you. Don't be like, no, I don't believe in that stuff. Did she say the things that helped you? Yes, then it's fine. All right. Let whoever's helping you help you. That's my thought process on things. I don't judge anyone. It's like, oh, that was right. That helped me. Oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
But I believe in the whole concept of it. So you don't have to worry about me.
And it's okay
But
if you don't. I've lived that life. I've walked that path. So
I didn't years ago.
yeah.
Not at all. I was like, woo? What is this woo you speak of? What is the definition of wooiness anyways in your mind? Because it's a fun word.
Yeah, woo woo. My massage therapist is very woo, and she told me it actually has like WU has an actual meaning. I think in
Oh, it does?
ancient Chinese teachings. I don't remember exactly what she said. This was years ago. But the woo woo is, for me, like the spiritual, the like when I say soul world, like it's all in the woo. It's not of this plane. It's in the spirit world, the magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's go more wooey then. Let's talk about old self, new self,
Mhm.
and dying, and how the old self can hold the new self back, and what that's all about.
Oh yeah. So I've been through quite a few death rebirth cycles, and
And we're
it's
not talking like I'm murdering here, people.
no, no, of course not. Honestly, anyone that's become a parent has gone through a death and rebirth cycle, especially women. You go from being the maiden to the mother, those two archetypes of the feminine. You're birthing yourself as you're birthing your child. And it really is just this process of becoming a new version of self. And for me, for some reason, my 30s has just been like, I feel like I'm a new version every year. My husband jokes because we got together when I was 28. And he's like, you're just like 10 different versions of self already. But it is this process of these old ways of being, old, belief systems, old ways of interacting with the world. They are dying for the new to take hold. And I believe a lot of the discomfort of that is the resistance to it. So the ego very much wants us to stay exactly where we are because the ego, it has an essential job. The ego is here to protect us. There's a lot of talk in the spiritual world about like, let's go get an ego death. We'll take a bunch of ayahuasca, and that's fine if that's your path. But for me, I like my ego. I'd rather work with him than kill him off. Because again, the ego's job is to keep you safe. So every time you are up leveling, you have a little bit of resistance because the ego doesn't know how to keep that next version of you safe. And my process has become more easy as I've been doing it again and again, because I really can live in a state of trust and surrender. Like I'm trusting who I'm becoming. I trust my path. And also, one of the most essential things I've done in my work on myself is increasing my capacity to hold discomfort. So a lot of times when we are uncomfortable or don't like an aspect of ourself, we tend to project it onto another. You do this when you judge other people. You do this when you feel like people are judging you. It's really you just kind of taking that projection and throwing it onto something else. And increasing my capacity to hold discomfort with myself, with all parts of myself, I then don't need to be as reactive to get out of that state. So this becoming cycle, every version I become, I know there's like a little bit of, it's darker, it's stickier, it's uncomfortable, but I've gone through it enough now where I know I'm going to get through it. I'm going to get to the other side, and it's all happening for me.
And what we're really talking about, guys out there and gals, is becoming a new version of yourself.
Yeah.
As we become, you get to a kind of a plateau, a ceiling, kind of where old you can't be there anymore. So you become an entirely new person.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the old person has to go away. So it's a death and a rebirth.
Especially,
you could call it breaking through a ceiling or whatever, but that's what we call it.
To all your entrepreneurs out there, as you expand your business, you're going to need to expand with your business. The version of you that started that company isn't going to be the version of you that can lead it as it up levels in success. So you need to, become aware. And it's usually these states of discomfort. And it's because every time I work with a client that's going through this, I'm like, you just have to surrender. And it's not that easy, but that's kind of what it is. You just got to trust, release, let go.
Right. You got me thinking about, business growth and having to become a different version of yourself. Like entrepreneurs out there starting, or somebody who's been through a lot, you got to remember being the entrepreneur that's just starting. It's like, I can do everything, and I do everything, and I wear every hat. And every time I hire someone, they can't do it as well as me. So I just do everything myself. And then eventually you have to give that up, or you ain't growing.
Yeah. It's also, though, like you started the show by talking about how you're very in your masculine, that lack of trust, that needing to be, I need to protect myself at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
I will bury myself in exhaustion, as opposed to just trusting this one person to do this job. That's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me the other day, she's like, I was talking to somebody, a message I was helping out with property management stuff. And it's like, this wasn't done quite on time. I might as well just do it myself. And it's like, I sent something to him like, okay, you're just starting out. That kind of works now, but remember, at some point you get to who, not how.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what? I'm like, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Because it is, I was going to go down a whole like dissertation about that. I'm like, not the time. Just starting out the business, not the time.
Yeah. It's releasing that need to control, which
it's really hard for us business owners in the beginning because it's our baby. We like, if someone else touches it, it's going to blow up.
Oh yeah. It's very hard. I get it. But it is kind of, again, seeing how it's keeping you back. It's keeping you contracted, constricted. And if this concept feels kind of like foreign or uncomfortable for anyone listening, just think back to, you're not the same person that you were when you were 12, 16, 20, 24. And I'm sure you can pinpoint moments in your life where you did go through this kind of discomfort and like realizing that you got through that new version of self. A lot of that is just old ways of thinking and being needed to release from you as you stepped into this new way of being. And it's uncomfortable to be different and to try new things, learn new things.
Yeah, I realized as I'm learning and growing right now, it's sometimes when I was younger, it was easier for the death rebirth or the growth process, however we want to put it. But now it's harder and more painful, especially the journey I'm on now because I guess it's before I wasn't forcing it as much. It was kind of happening. Now
Hmm.
I'm forcing it. So it is sometimes emotionally painful and fatiguing
Yeah.
to go through it. And sometimes you're like, I don't know if I should be doing this. I'm like, shut up, old self. You know,
Yeah. So I'm a little bit nicer to
it's the masculine.
it's no, it's kind of more the ego. And
Yeah.
again, it's, every time I'm taking a step in growth, it's it's uncomfortable, it's scary, but I don't allow my fear to lead me, my fear to drive. So I kind of come back into my heart, like I trust this is my path. I trust this is my calling, like this is what I'm meant to do. And that masculine in me, like, I got this. No matter what happens, I got this. We can do it. Let's go.
Some of the main fears people might be thinking out there when you're growing or changing is, what will people think of me? Will I lose my friends? Those are two ones I hear come up the most
Yeah,
is,
and the whole what will people think of me? That's actually your fears. Like it's what you fear about yourself, what you don't like about yourself that you're projecting onto those. Like what will people think of me? What do you actually believe to be true about the worst possible things that they could be thinking about you? That's the work you need to do. That's what you need to dive into.
I think she just blew all your minds right there. Oh no. You just thought about it because I prompted you to think about it. We didn't plan this. She just did that. And then she was like, boom, gotcha. That's what you got to
That's
work
like
on.
that's one of the tenets of my work on myself is it's have you heard of the term shadow, like your shadow side? So our shadow is all the parts of ourself that we've rejected because we thought they were unlovable, there was shame around them. And for me, for example, I had the word selfish in my shadow because I thought that a selfish woman was like the worst possible thing you could be, especially a selfish mother. But I found that through how I was judging others, like how I was judging other mothers, judging other women. If they were selfish, I was like, oh, how could they be that selfish? When really, because I had rejected that part of myself, it was this part of me that wasn't putting myself, like, wasn't taking care of myself, wasn't putting my needs in a place of relevance in my family. So by seeing that I had rejected that, put it in my shadow, I actually had to reclaim that, integrate that back into myself in order to have my needs met, take care of myself. So it's these ways in which we reject what we think is bad, what we were told was bad when we were younger. And a lot of times, because we've rejected that, there's a lot of really good things hiding behind it that you need to claim and integrate back in.
Oh, we did not talk about that before. I like that. Now you blew my mind. So everyone's minds exploded at this point in time. So good. Wow. Well, not my transition's horrible. I'm a bad podcaster. Let's go. I had it all set up in my head and then you broke it.
Okay, we're
So
human. We're doing great.
we are. People like me.
They do.
What is, I
You
forgot
like you.
I like me. I forgot we gave me my heart is open. I remember. I just listened to it too. I need to write it down.
Yeah.
You gave me my thing to say. Well, but let's go to. I kind of want to take everything we talked about and kind of move it together a little bit. We talked about feminine, masculine. We talked about shadow self. We talked about new lives. We talked about past lives. We talked about death and rebirth. You talked about taking all the things we want and know about, and all these things, these tools, kind of, and these things that happen too, also, and getting those things and working our subconscious to get us where we need to be. How do you do that?
Yeah. So bringing awareness is one of the most important pieces because when you're actually aware of why you think, act, react the way you do, you can start to consciously create change. So, on a physiological level, we're actually creating new neural pathways. We're remyelinating neural pathways in the brain because so many people react unconsciously to their environment, to other people, and that's because they're just kind of going through those old brain pathways that are very used, very myelinated. It's first step is awareness, and then we start to work together to create that change. So in a conscious way, it's just again like when you know your programming is coming up, you know you're reacting in a certain way. The most important thing you can do is create a little bit of space between what triggers you and how you react. So for me, again, I used to be very afraid of being seen in this work, so I wouldn't show up because I was so afraid and my subconscious was driving the show. I was just staying small, not taking the opportunity, not going for it. And as I started to shift that narrative, what I was doing was I was creating more space between that trigger and my action. So I was like sitting with that, and I could just be like, oh, well, that's my fear. Like that's because I was burned as a witch in one life, like, if you will. I'm not going to let that hold me down in this life. So it's creating that space. So then you're acting out of alignment. You're acting out of who you want to be, who you are becoming, opposed to that subconscious version of self. And so many people go around the world just being reactive. And that really can happen in a very heightened, emotional, triggered state. But to me, like, the real work of it is just taking, not control, but that's wounded masculine, but just being very conscious of how I am interacting in the world and not wanting any of my behaviors to be driven from that unconscious place. It's going to happen. I'm human, but I can dream big.
I love how you can bring in the woo and then the science. You
Yeah.
just like you got both. You're not just woo all the time. You're
No.
like, here's the woo and here's the science behind the woo.
Yeah. And that's, science was never meant to be so separate from spirituality. The greatest minds of our time were actually very developed in mathematics, in astronomy, as well as in their spirituality, in the arts. And I think it's been a huge disservice to us as a society, thinking that you need to be one or the other. Same way in which we can kind of say, like, oh, you need, like, and we're actually resolving this now culturally, but how we've been told for so many years, you need to be a man or you need to be a woman, like this one or the other. That's not really how it works. It's that harmonizing of those two extremes. That's where the magic is.
That is extremes. That's because you think like scientist or
Mm-hmm.
like shaman or
Yeah.
some other like that's the what we think it came up with, right?
Yes.
I don't know what it came up with, but but you know what I'm saying? Like you think
Yeah.
opposite
Yeah.
ends of the scale, right?
Yeah. And science is catching up to, like, it's kind of proving quantum mechanics, to me, just kind of proves so many aspects of spirituality. Like, energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So your soul, I see your soul is just this beautiful fractal of energy that is just, it has existed for all of time. So in my mind, of course, it has had many lifetimes. Of course, this isn't your first go around here. And the way in which, quantum entanglement, how you can entangle with something, and then no matter how far apart those atoms are, they are reacting and acting in the same way. Like, this to me just proves the woo in the science space. But that's just me.
There you go, blowing minds again. Physics and mechanics or something like with the woo. I've heard people talk about, us all being connected and science proving that everyone in the world is connected through something or another, and that's something, but I'm not studied in this stuff. I can tell you about Facebook ads, but I can't tell you about this stuff.
See, and I
Um,
can Facebook ads, so it's great
what?
together.
Yeah, I can tell you all about that, but I can't tell you about any of this stuff. That's what I've been working on lately is Facebook ads. So if any of you out there getting Facebook ads about short-term rentals, you clearly are in my group that I'm working on. Yeah. So cool. What is it? Kind of gonna start wrapping up soon, but I wanted people to know because now that they know a little bit about you, they know a little about what you do, and they know how you can help us. It's not exactly like this is how you work your business because some of us entrepreneurs realize at a certain point in time the business coach is needed, but you only grow. Your business only grows as much as you do. So I actually get personal coaches or coaches, development coaches more often than I get business coaches these days
Yeah.
because I think my business has outgrown me. So I need to
Mhm.
catch up sometimes.
Mhm.
So what does it look like to work with you? What does the whole thing look like?
Yeah, so my initial sessions they run between 75 and 90 minutes, and that is set up more as the intuitive. Kind of like for you, I read your energy and I brought the insights that I received to you, and we talked about them. And then to work with me in the coaching, like more of like that coach to continue to work with me, I'm still using that intuition, but I'm really shining it on the areas of your life in which you are blocked. So a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with, again, it's those money stories, shifting those. It's those wounds around self-worth. A lot of the men I work with are, again, it's because they have that like core wound around worth. They are constantly needing to do, fix, prove themselves. For a lot of the women entrepreneurs I'm working with, and this is actually for both. I think it's very important for both to tap into their intuition. But a lot of the women I'm working with are wanting to soften into their feminine. And I think it's because as a coach, I can shine the path that I've walked. So what I do with my clients, I've done on myself again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Like I have seen these wounds in myself. I've resolved these wounds in myself. And I find that my clients tend to very much mirror a past version of myself or a past issue that I've worked through. So in coaching, I am taking your goals and I'm kind of, again, aligning your subconscious with them by bringing conscious awareness to your patterns, your beliefs. I also can get pretty woo, so we can do some energy work, energy healing. If like some past life things come up. I'm trained in parts work, so I do a lot of that, a lot of shadow work as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So initial energy session, kind of dig into you a little bit, and then after that, it's taking what you've learned about the person and the original thing, finding where you are, and trying to uncover, I guess, and then reprogram us a little bit
Not
for.
trying to. We're doing it. We're in
Okay,
there.
doing it. I'm in trouble, Kat. I'm in trouble, everyone. That's not trying to. We reprogramming, I guess, is a word for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The neural pathways that we have set forth. I used a big word, people, to get us to where we want to be. Because
Mm-hmm.
we have, like me, I have all these things I want to do. Like I have my caged apart and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my feminine I want to be more in touch with.
Yeah.
And those are things that, I know it here. And like you talked about, it's something that we then have to internalize and reprogram to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone out there, money stories too, why am I never happy when I get money?
Yeah.
You'd be able to work with us to be like, so when you get to a point, you may actually be happy at that point. You
Yeah.
may still go forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're going forward with happiness or the pain you
Um,
talked about when we talked last time, the pain. Okay, go ahead.
I
Okay.
was going to say like fulfillment is kind of more because happiness, I want joy for all of my clients, but I think a deeper state would be being fulfilled.
I like that word
That's
better.
kind of like when you're fulfilled, that is a sign to me that you really are, you're living your purpose.
Yeah, happy's fleeting, right?
And happy's meant to be fleeting because we
Yeah,
wouldn't be happy if we were happy all the time.
true.
Whereas I very much feel like you can be fulfilled. Like you don't have to be unfulfilled in order to know what fulfillment is.
And then we can go down the path of you can't be fully, happy or fulfilled if you don't let yourself feel the pain also,
Yeah.
which we've talked about before, and another coach talked about me with that, which another realization to some of us out there that are like, I'm a fully centered person. I never get angry. Or you don't allow yourself to feel pain. And then you realize, hey, you ever really happy? You're like, wait a second. Crap. I sit in the middle of the scale the whole time.
Yeah, anger is a very sacred emotion. It's very telling, and a lot of women, especially, don't access their anger, and a lot of men can kind of have like outbursts, too much anger. But anger is a sign that you have either had a boundary crossed or there needs to be a boundary there. And a lot of us don't allow that anger to come online and listen to it. And what I find is you can't just clamp one emotion. Like you can't just be like, oh, I'm just never going to feel anger. I'm going to clamp that. If you're clamping anything, you're clamping the rest of it. Like if you're not allowing yourself to feel anger or sadness or despair, you're clamping your experience on the breadth of the human experience and emotions that you should be feeling. You can't just be like, nope, not that one. Like if you try to dim one, you dim them all.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. So for everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed talking to Melissa. I always do. And yes, this isn't about business particularly, but as you know, this is about you trying to get over things that are bothering you or holding you back. And a lot of it is not business that's holding us back. It's us, it's internal,
Mm-hmm.
it's things that Melissa talks about and helps about. So I had a session with her a while back, and we've been trying to. This is like the third time we've rescheduled, so we can finally talk. Because I was like, wow, that was super helpful, and I think this podcast is all about helping people. And I was like, I need to get Melissa on here to talk to people about helping. So, thank you so much.
You.
Talking about all the wooiness and the science and the wooiness together and blowing minds. If somebody does want to have a session with you or just talk to you or get in touch with you or anything, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, my website is melissalegette.com, and then my Instagram is Melissa_Legette. You need that underscore because there's another Melissa Legette out there who I think she's an author. She has a lot of cats, bakes pies. I don't do any of those things. So don't confuse us. She's great, I'm sure. It's just not me.
So if they do you have a cat? So if they do you have
No,
a cat?
no, and that's how actually a mutual friend of ours, I went to her event and she linked that Instagram, and it was really funny because people would like scan my badge. They'd be like, "Oh, you have a cat?" I was like, "Nope, that's another one. That's another Melissa."
So everyone up, if you see
out
a
there.
cat in the Instagram picture, you get the wrong Melissa.
You got the
It's
wrong
the other
one.
Melissa.
My Instagram's Melissa_Legette.
We'll link it down below as we always do too, so you can get a hold of her that way. As always, I'm Jason Regan. Best way to find me on Facebook, Jason L. Regan on Facebook, or you can just find me in the Celery to Stay Facebook group for short-term rentals, or just anywhere. You know where to find me. And this is Empire Expanders Podcast. I hope you had a great time listening to Melissa and myself.
I hope so too.
Reach out to us. I think we're going to talk more after this, so you all can go away, but we're going to stay. Have a great day. Thanks for hanging out with me today on Empire Expanders. Don't forget to subscribe and follow my social media channels for more insightful fun. Also, explore the links in the show notes. If you've enjoyed what you heard, giving us a 5-star rating would really help us out and be appreciated. Stay tuned for more on Empire Expanders.